combat proved the urgent need of manning machine guns on both sides of the helicopter.
Get some, right? We always think of Full Metal Jacket and that door gunner in the helicopter. When Joker says to, how do you shoot women and children? He goes, you just don't lead them so much? Let's take a look at door gunners in Vietnam. Let's go.
In a few minutes, we arrived at the compound of our new outfit, the 197th Aviation Company. After that, it was strictly business, and in a hurry, too. We drew helmets and flak jackets from supply. Next, a briefing at a UH-1B helicopter.
Now, those of you who aren't familiar with flak jackets, yeah, that's exactly it. They'll take a little bit of shrapnel, maybe. They're not stopping a bullet. They don't do a whole lot except get you hot and they're a pain in the ass. I'm not sure if they ever did a study how effective they really were from stopping shrapnel, because they don't seem like they were that effective. Wearing them, anything I could do to dump it wasn't going to help you a whole lot, and they're not that light, heavy.
On the variety of armament systems these choppers carry. This one used the XM-16 system, 2 rocket pods with 7 rockets in each pod, backed up by 4 M60 machine guns mounted on the helicopter pylons. Other weapons systems combine rockets with other kinds of firepower. All of them, remember, are backed up by the door gunner's machine guns. The talk concluded with an important safety point.
Let's get some, boys.
With this done, we were on our way for real. It was a moment I would always remember, my first combat mission. On an armed visual reconnaissance,
now, there wasn't always door gunners on helicopters. Something we learned in Vietnam, besides the crew chief who could be a door gunner historically, they added a guy who was just the door gunner because they realized they needed a lot more besides the already munitions on the side of the helicopter. So they need more firepower. So here comes a door gunner. That could be a fun job, but in those helicopters, it seems like it'd be terrifying. A tin can that makes noise in the jungle.
2 helicopters is normally used. The 2 are known as a Fire Team Light. 3 gunships make up a Fire Team Heavy. The purpose of the mission is to obtain information about the enemy and to locate and destroy Viet Cong positions. The door gunner serves as the eyes and ears of the crew. It's his job to keep searching the ground for evidence of enemy activity. He looks for movement, signs of enemy fortifications and road cuts, the appearance of a new track and trail activity. The Viet Cong are masters of camouflage. It takes a trained eye and lots of experience to detect them. Our schooling in identifying targets by size, shape, color, and shadow pays off. The problem is further complicated by the variety of terrain. There seems to be no end of flat, watery rice paddies. By members of the crew using all weapons are of crucial importance when the aircraft is engaging an enemy target.
You gotta wonder how many things the door gunner actually hits versus just getting people to put their head down. If you got a helicopter flying, you got people running, you got an altitude, and you've got all sorts of moving parts here to actually hit the target. So I would venture to say they're not hitting a lot, as long as they get close enough for people to run and quit being bad guys.
After destroying our target, we're diverted to escort a heliborne troop lift. Door gunners in the troop carriers mark enemy positions with either tracer rounds or colored smoke grenades, like this one. Then the door gunners open up with their M60s, forcing the enemy to keep his head down while the transports unload their troops.
God, can you imagine if they did that today? They're just firing into the woods. It could be anybody in the woods, obviously. Good people, bad people, your own people. Hopefully they know where there's no blue-on-blue action going on here. But you just see he was indiscriminately firing into the jungle. Now, like the man said on the video a minute ago, just trying to get people to put their heads down so the troop helicopters can pick up the guys need to be taken away very quickly.
The same procedure is used when the men load on again. This continuous fire protects the aircraft as well as the troops. The choppers are most vulnerable to enemy fire in this phase of the action. Now I really understood why they bore down so hard in training about conserving ammo. It was to make sure we had enough to keep up suppressive fire going into and out of an assault landing. We got the same hairy situation when we dropped in to pick up wounded soldiers. It's typical of the Viet Cong mentality that they make a special effort to get us when we land on a medevac mission. In those tense moments when we're loading casualties aboard...
I would be scared pissing my pants on this one. You're landing, it's a loud helicopter in an open area. You know, hopefully they've got a perimeter set up. Maybe they don't. Maybe there's only 6 guys left and there's 3 hauling a stretcher and 1 on it. I don't know how many of these things I tried to determine actually got shot down and or hit on the ground. It was a pretty heavy, if you had 6-10 runs without getting fire to your aircraft, that was a big deal, it seemed like, from the research I did on this.
The chopper, we're perfect sitting ducks. So you can believe it when I tell you we don't waste any time. And we don't stand on ceremony about pitching in to help. Sometimes we've got to double as medics, too. Another mission we had was to give overhead cover to convoys moving through territory where the Viet Cong was known to be strong. We screened the convoy's flanks, front and rear, giving towns a going over as well as...
Now the screening, just think about the screening now. They have these thermals, optics, they have all sorts of intelligence on the ground, drones, really determine what's down there. So you got this convoy, you see villagers walking, could be good guys, could be bad guys, you don't know. But you're using the door gunner, the pilot's eyes to determine, okay, that looks like a bad guy. You could be flying and I don't know how far away, maybe 1/8 of a mile. I don't know how you could identify target with certainty. I guess the answer is you couldn't, you just did your best. Now, I would say half of these pilots would probably go to jail for a bad shot just because of the nature of what we've got now with determining who's the good guy and the bad guy. I guess the bad guy is the one carrying the AK-47 running in one direction. What else can you do?
You can never tell when a sniper will open up from what is supposed to be a friendly village. We're always on call to give fire support where needed. A Vietnamese outpost reported an enemy attack. We went in to see what we could do, only to find that artillery had already silenced the Viet Cong. Homeward bound, we passed a CH-47 out on a mission. These big, rugged aircraft are primarily troop transport and cargo carriers.
Now, the CH-47's aircraft, they went in when they were trying to get Marcus Luttrell and those guys out. You remember a bunch of SF guys got shot down. And as the story goes, it was just a CH-47. They didn't have any accompanying aircraft to protect them. So if you look at one of these things, it's like a flying tube in the air. There's not a whole lot to protect it. It's not very fast and maneuverable. So that'll give you an idea when you think about all those SEALs. I think there were some Delta Rangers, a whole group of people on this aircraft, this Chinook that got shot down. There it is. It's a slow-moving thing in the air.
But they, too, carry door gunners as full-fledged members of the flight crew.
You know, the issue becomes there with that Chinook is, let's say the door gunner is stopped and where he can shoot. He needs the aircraft to turn. Well, they're just not as fast as, say, when you're looking at those Hueys, can turn on a dime, and that door gunner can get a little more of an angle to the bad guy. And they have the door gunner, but they don't have any munitions on the side. There's no any kind of sidewinders, any kind of munitions used at the time. You're just talking a door gunner. You can see why that Chinook got shot down. There was a bunch of rumblings of why they didn't have flanking aircraft to protect them. That was an issue, a bunch of rumblings on that topic.
The first job for the door gunner is to safety his M60 by removing the gun barrel. Then the chopper is made ready for its next mission. Seems like a funny thing happened on the way back to the airbase.
Look at that.
The Viet Cong did some shooting too. Their rounds ripped through this flare box.
I've talked to guys that were in Iraq in 2006-07 time frame. They were in helicopters, and they'd find random holes, something got hit, and they didn't even know. Because these aircraft aren't very thick, and you hear it, but you don't know unless it hits something significant, or it's close enough. Like in this example, hit this ammo box. You realize we're just sitting ducks in the air. We don't have a whole lot to protect ourselves except identify the enemy first. Thanks for watching.